Tottenham. Dominic, you're a doctor, are you, sir? Good morning.
Yes, hi Nick, good morning. I'm a doctor. I was redeployed to NHS COVID ICU in the first pandemic and actually wrote a book about the lockdown and the early lockdown.
What's the name of the book, in case I forget to ask you?
Yeah, sure. It's called Duty of Care.
Okay.
And
is it self-published, or do you have a publisher?
No, it's with Welbeck.
Well, oh, right. Okay, Duty of Care with Welbeck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really heartbreaking listening to some of the stories today. I think there's this dichotomy, I think, that we're proposed in the media, that the virus versus the economy, or the virus versus, other NHS activity. Unfortunately, the real truth is there is no dichotomy. You can't go back to the economy safely without control of the virus. We can't get NHS hospitals running safely without control of the virus. If you look internationally, the countries that had the worst excess deaths per million, which unfortunately is us, also had the worst GDP hit over the course of the last 6 months. And, contrast that with countries like Norway or Denmark or Germany, much better control of the virus and actually much better economically as well.
Well, hold on, Dominic. Sweden, where they didn't lock down. How would you explain that?
So Sweden is a great example, and thanks for bringing that up. First of all, Sweden did lock down.
Well, nothing like the same. They didn't close the schools.
It did close the schools for older children, and in Stockholm, for example, they saw a 40% reduction in travel and a 25% reduction in spending. Despite that, and despite the GDP hit, so they lost about 8% of their GDP, they also had one of the highest excess deaths per million in Scandinavia, much higher than Norway and Denmark, and almost as much as we did. So they sort of failed on both fronts, which is actually why it's a really good example that the economy versus the virus doesn't work. And Sweden has been held up as this false sort of example of how to do it, when actually the example is they didn't do it right and we didn't do it right either. We were far too late.
Well, who did do it right?
So, Germany, South Korea, Singapore, Norway, Denmark, and a lot.
It's flaring up again. I don't know about those Asian countries. It's flaring up again in Germany.
Yes, that's right, and they still have a good functioning track and trace system. They're following a lot of contact tracing is working really well, and they're following the guidelines. And the problem here is that, and you picked up your own point, the government messaging has been so confusing. And there is a way to back to normality, but we have to be a lot more imaginative about how we get people back to work and back to schools, which is probably the priority. But also the fundamentals of what the basics are, and just following them and making sure that everyone does that.
I'm late to the news already. Just one example of how we could be more creative or more imaginative.
So we could support people working from home and making sure that's still economically viable and that doesn't, harm the economy in terms of...
What about the businesses that rely on them going to the workplace?
Well, what about bringing those businesses into the community and then supporting grants to transform those businesses? For example, coffee vans.
I'm running a shoe repairers in the city. What am I going to do?
Well, why don't you have a support grant to move your business or to become a residential business or a mobile business?
Well, where am I going to go? I can't be in the whole of London. I used to have thousands of people coming in. I could repair all the men and women's shoes. What do you want me to do? Drive around the whole of M25 now, picking them up?
Yeah, but equally, Nick, if we keep going for the rampant virus control and we close London, then the same result.
All right. What's the name of your book again?
Duty of Care.
Good luck with it. Thank you. We're late. 8:47.